Okay, there we go. So we're going to start, as I mentioned, with Patrick talking about membership, particularly about retention. He may get some help there from our retention chairman, Lonnie, who's I know is on here with us this morning. Then we're going to hear from Lloyd on insurance and how we can use them as partners. I did, if you heard my line yesterday from one of my adjoining state deputies, he said to his Grand Knights, if Supreme hired a personal recruiting agent for you at no expense for you, a professional recruiter, would you be able to meet your goals? And they all said yes. And he said, well, you already have one, and he's called a field agent. So I hope everybody takes that to heart and involve the field agent in everything you can, and the general agent if he's around and available. And I think we'll find that we do a lot better in terms of recruiting. So then I'm going to talk just briefly. I have some slides from Don, who wasn't available to give his presentation. So I'm just going to run through our state ceremonial chairman's slides. Patrick, I still have roundtables on there. I don't know whether you're going to talk at all about roundtables, but it's still on the agenda there. Then we'll hear from Jim Witzman, our district master, about the fourth degree. A short break, and then we've just got a final 30, 45 minutes. I'll briefly talk about the upcoming state convention. Jesse's going to hit us with forms and reports and what's outstanding and what's necessary. And then I have a brief update on the safe environment, youth protection, and then a closing message. And if Father Marty is here, I'll ask him to lead us in prayer. If not, I believe in any case we'll be praying the request for our great founders, our blessed founder, for his canonization. Okay, so let's get started. I'll stop sharing, Patrick, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Worthy State Deputy. I'm going to share my presentation. And hopefully my computer doesn't shut down on me here. We'll see. Can you all see it?
Yes, we can.
So thank you all for joining us here again. It's a beautiful hotel, as you can see. It's all decked out here for Christmas. And, I want to wish you all a happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, and a blessed Advent as we approach the actual holiday. It's a bit more cloudy today than it was yesterday, but it's still nice to be together. My topic is really membership billing and retention. We really had a great breakout yesterday. I really enjoyed that, as Dave said. I think a lot of us did. I just want to go through, basically my intent here is to cover this topic from soup to nuts as best I can. This can be a resource for you guys. District deputies especially have to be familiar with this process so you can coach your financial secretaries and council leadership. So I think this is something we cover in almost every either organizational meeting or mid-year meeting, and very little changes, but it is easy to forget the details. So I want to go through that with everybody. Hopefully nobody's falling asleep. Just know that I can watch you. And we'll see just how riveting this actually is. So this is, I'm going to be sending it out to DDs later, but there is information that we actually adopted from a sister jurisdiction in Missouri that we use. It's called the request for membership suspension form, right? And they sent out a communication that I thought was pretty clear. and comprehensive, and I'll be sending that out to DDs later. A lot of that has been adopted in this presentation here, okay? The first thing is, retention is actually a relationship with your members. And when guys are engaged, they are less likely to not pay their dues or not pay their dues when you ask them to. So the idea of the leave no neighbor behind, first pillar of that program in supporting our brother knights and contacting them regularly through this pandemic, it's got to yield great results for our retention, especially if you're engaging them with asking them to help with a program or something you guys are doing to support the parish, whether that's cleaning the pews in between mass or holding a parking lot event of some kind to support your parish ministries. It's going to yield long-term benefits that are well beyond the initial benefit you see. It's what I'm seeing from the various councils who are telling me what they're doing is it's sort of changing the relationship, not only of the parish with the knights, but also the members with their councils. So I'm hoping you guys will continue to do this. And if you haven't adopted it, your councils haven't done this, this is a great idea to have a calling tree or some formal way of contacting your membership on a regular basis to engage them in what you're doing. I've actually, this job and the retention job have been quite an adventure for me. It's been pretty eye-opening, and sometimes I would rather have my eyes closed with some of the things I'm learning. But I'm hearing from guys who are really super active in their councils that no longer know what's going on in their councils because their councils stopped communicating. They're either not sending out newsletters by email or mail, or one or the other, right? And somehow or other something's changed, and they don't know what's going on. And they are willing to act, they're willing to help with programs, but they don't know when they are or what's going on. So just be aware that guys are not going to know stuff we don't tell them. And it's up to us as leaders to encourage our extended family to really close the loop on that communication, right? So especially new members, we want to encourage mentorship, meaning a relationship between one knight and the new member. In partnerships and buddies, we want to encourage, but not overburden the new guys. In other words, you don't want to recruit a member and ask them to be Grand Knight the next year, right? I mean, I've seen it happen, and there has been a case where I know it did happen. The guy actually accepted it, but it's not the ideal, right? So best to ease people into this whole Knights of Columbus way of doing things, especially since it's been changing quite a lot recently. I said the newsletters still have their place. As far as billing is concerned, many councils and assemblies are just emailing their bills, and there might be missing the boat on that one too. So if you're not mailing statements, at least the second notice, when I'll talk about the various cadence here a bit later, but we want to make sure we're using every means of communication that we have available to us. And, the one thing that I've proposed that we haven't adopted here in the state is actually an automated phone messaging tool called Dial My Calls. But these are things that Supreme actually mentioned in their fraternal operations webinars early on in March and April. And there are tools that we can be using for virtual, to contact our members virtually, that some people are using and some people are not using. So the virtual means we're using Zoom right now, but other tools that Supreme uses, GoToMeeting, Skype, etc., Jabber, whatever tools people have, these are ways of having meetings, that are beyond just Zoom. So virtual means are important. They're not going away. They probably should be maintained on an ongoing basis in combination with live meetings, right? So what does that mean? That means if you have a membership meeting, you want to keep it small. You might just have the officers who have to write checks and sign the checks at the actual physical meeting, and then have the rest of your officers and membership on Zoom, right? So we want to encourage and reward involvement. We want to create a culture of recognition and appreciation. Let men contribute their unique skills. What is it they're good at? What is it they're interested in doing? That's how they get engaged. That's how you discover new programs as well, right? People have a heart for the homeless and they want to do something special for the homeless that your council is not currently doing. They might have knowledge that you don't currently have that could open the door for you guys to do something really cool and really effective, and something your parish would get on board with as well. So let your men contribute their unique skills and their passions and their experience. It's the other hidden benefit of bringing in new members, right? You get all of their history that comes in with them when they walk in the door. As far as a culture of recognition and appreciation, councils say repeatedly, oh, we're not in it for the awards, and they're not in it for the awards. We understand that. We talked about our programs being the way that we put our faith into action, and we demonstrate our desire to help those less well off than we are, seeing Christ in those people. But it's also really important in any volunteer organization to continue to appreciate the members, the volunteers. We are a volunteer organization. Guys aren't getting paid, but they do need to be recognized occasionally, and we can't lose sight of that. We still have that volunteer charitable organization dynamic in play, and we have to appreciate the guys who are stepping up and doing the things that they do. So I'm not opposed to creating and inventing new awards if you want to. Like I created the Golden Tootsie Roll Award in my council one year. I got one of these giant Tootsie Rolls from Cracker Barrel, I think it was, and I put it on a gold plaque and I gave it to the guy who ran the Tootsie Roll program. It was the Golden Tootsie Roll Award. I didn't have any other thing to give them. So they appreciated that. I mean, I've given the Golden Spatula Award, spray painting a plastic spatula, people handing a pancake breakfast. This is something I got out of my Cub Scouting career, but people might think it's hokey, but I've never had anybody refuse any of the awards I've given them. So creating a culture of recognition actually adds a dimension of fun and wackiness to your meetings as well, if it's not the most professional thing in the world. So let's talk about the retention and withdrawal process. So whenever I talk about retention, people usually think about suspension and getting guys who aren't paying their dues out of the system, right? So we really ought to be looking at it as a way of getting those guys engaged in our mission as Knights and helping to retain them, which is why we always call it a retention process, right? But it is possible for members to withdraw by simply requesting to do so with a signed letter. That should be sent to the council financial secretary and/or Grand Knight. If this council processes that to Supreme, they will process it immediately, assuming it is signed by the member in question and it's clearly from him and its intention. The council still has an obligation to contact the member before they submit that to Supreme. We want to find out if there's anything we can do, if there is some kind of hardship, there's something else going on that we can intervene with and help with, that the member himself might think is not possible, or he might not be comfortable asking for, right? So we do want to contact every member, and that's the underlying theme of this whole presentation. We want to contact every member every time there's an issue, okay? So we want to make sure that we know what the reason is. It's not that the guy can't pay his bills. And if it is that he can't pay the bills and he's worried about, not being able to pay, we have an obligation fraternally to carry that member until he's able to get back on his feet. If he has a disability, for example, those are things that we should be dealing with in the council, and the Grand Knight should be considering that and taking them off the list for suspension, okay? That's an expectation we have of our council leadership. It's not just that's a fraternal responsibility, in my opinion. And I don't think it's one that should be casually overlooked by our council membership. So transfers, the other option, if a guy is moving out and he no longer wants to be a Knight because he doesn't know anybody where he's going, we want to help them transfer when and if they move, right? So we can help find a council that's more convenient for them. Sometimes there's a conflict in the council itself that they might want to make a change. They might still love being a Knight and what the Knights are and do, and helping them transfer to another council might be an option, right? So helping members transfer in and out of our councils is a very important part of the member retention, just a sort of membership billing process. Transfers can be accomplished with both the online Form 100 and the paper Form 100. If you don't know what the online Form 100 is, it's the financial secretary and grand net of the council have in Officers Online. There's a tab called the what is it called? Candidate tab in member management, and they can see that there's a form that they can put prospects in on and manage them as prospects, but also bring them in as new members or transfers from another council. So that tool, there's a primer for that on the state website under resources, training. You'll see the link for there's actually a video on the online Form 100 that you can watch. Okay. And if you can't find that, I can either show that later or I can talk to you about that independently. I'm not telling you guys, the DDs, this because you're not going to have to do it. I'm telling you that so you can share that with your council leaders and empower them to do it. You're not going to be able to see this. I can't see this as a DD. I can't see the online Form 100 as a membership director. But I know it's there, and I've seen the video, and I know that it's a tool that's in use. So we want to give our councils the tools that they need to be effective in a more streamlined manner with all the COVID restrictions we have. Okay, yeah, my screen is chopping off the top part of my presentation here, so I think I went too far here. Okay, bear with me.
While he's adjusting, if you're having somebody moving out of state or even another part of the state and you need help finding a council in that area, reach out to Patrick or reach out to a state officer. We can reach out to John and other areas to help find councils elsewhere in the country.
Yeah, so guys, if you're chatting with me while I'm presenting, I'm not gonna be able to answer your chat. I can follow up with it afterwards. We haven't really put a mechanism in place for questions. I see some coming in. Supreme will actually accept the form letter if it takes that, but we don't want to make it too easy for councils to process withdrawals, right? We want to make sure that they're following the process that's necessary, which is to have personal contact with every member. I've got this whole toolbar on top of my screen. You guys know a clue on how to get that out of here so I can see my whole, I'll just move it around. Okay, that's better. Apparently I have a window. Can you guys see that? Please move this window away from the shared application. Is that showing up?
We do, and then we just see an outline of it's not hiding very much except for the actual message. So
yeah, I don't know.
If it's bothering you, then it's not bothering us.
There, it's disappeared now.
Yeah,
it comes back.
Back. I don't know.
We'll ignore it. You ignore it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's not hiding much of your slide, Patrick. Just the question.
Okay. It's very annoying, but I'm sorry. Okay. So the keys to membership billing. We want to make sure they get the request for the billing, right? So we want to make sure they get it in the first place. That means they need to have a good email address or a good mailing address. Generally speaking, I advocate for both mailing and email. Probably the emailing would be first and then sending a snail mail soon afterwards if you don't get response from the email. But in general, we want to make sure that we're communicating with every member on a regular basis, even before the billing cycle happens, so that we know that their phone numbers and addresses are accurate before we try to bill them. That's another benefit of the leave no neighbor behind first pillar, right? So I already said about mailing and emailing. We should be calling them if we don't hear from them. I mean, the guys, how engaged are guys going to be if the only time they ever hear from us is when we're asking them to pay their dues, right? It's probably not ideal. I don't think I would respond too well with that. And I don't think many of you guys would either, right? So we want to make sure that our fraternal obligations are being met and we're treating guys like the brothers they are. So if councils are having difficulty with that, that's something that can make a huge difference in the council's success long term, and as well as just immediately. So here's the nuts and bolts of the membership billing process. Okay, there is a form that I'll be sending out to all DDs, anybody who's interested, called the membership billing process, and it lays out the nuts and bolts of these steps from Supreme in a clear manner. Just says exactly what I'm saying here. And on the other side of that page, there's two columns of all the dates, the cadence, based on whether you're billing on a calendar basis or a fraternal year basis. These notes here are really referring to a calendar year billing, which starts on December 15th. First notice should be going out soon if it hasn't gone out already. 15 days before the billing period, that means December 15th, that's when the first notice goes out by email or mail, or both. Generally speaking, if you send it out early December or mid-December and you get responses, you obviously won't send out a snail mail notice. You won't print and send that out to guys you've gotten payment for. But I would recommend that you send a letter at the end of the year, at December 31st, if you haven't gotten response. But the formal process is that if you don't have payment in 30 days, then you're sending the second notice, right? So that would mean January 15th or January 30th at the latest, you're sending your second notice out. My suggestion and recommendation is that with the second notice, you're also involving your retention team. So the subject of retention is a formal process whereby men of your council are responsible for contacting members if they don't pay their dues. That's the retention team. Usually it's the trustees of the council and the Grand Knight. Sometimes it's led by the deputy Grand Knight, but the trustees are usually the core of that group. It can be larger, it can be, I wouldn't suggest it'd be smaller, but as a rule, the trustees are involved because they usually know the most guys in the council and have the most understanding of the process and as a whole, and can make a really good invitation for the guys to join and help with the value proposition that's needed to be communicated. So you engage your retention team with that second notice and possibly get as many guys to pay as possible. And most of the time in this period, what I've found is that this is where you're finding out who didn't get the notice or doesn't think they got the notice or ignored the notice and accidentally. You get them to pay. If 30 days after the second notice, this is when Supreme actually asks you to send the contact information to the retention committee, and that should be happening at the end of February. Well, these dates are not accidental, and they're really important because what we have to get away from, if at all possible, is doing our billing in December, carrying the process all the way through until after the end of the fraternal year, and then suspending guys at the beginning of the next fraternal year. I mean, that works okay if your only objective in life is star and you don't want to do anything to affect that. But it's a giant hurdle to get over for the next Grand Knight to begin their year with suspension. So ideally, we should be planning for intake to coincide with the membership suspension and withdrawals that we're aware of, right? So if we have a goal of 10 net and we know we're going to lose 3 more than likely, then we want to plan to bring in at least 13. We don't want to keep deferring deferring the liability into the next year because it's hard to play catch up, right? So that's my opinion. You guys might have different ones. But in general, 30 days is the last time we should be engaging your retention committee, and the retention committee needs to make contact with the members. This is not the financial secretary's responsibility. I'm going to say that again. Dave, what did I just say? Whose responsibility is it?
You said this is not the financial secretary's responsibility.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not the financial secretary's responsibility. It's the retention team's responsibility. Your financial secretaries are not your retention teams. That means that not only are they not responsible for making all the calls, they are not responsible for making the decisions with retention. They are the people who process this stuff. They're not the decision makers.
Patrick, may I make a comment?
You may.
In my new trade council, we have determined also that every member of our council is a member of the retention committee, because at a certain point, we take that list of those individuals on after that second notice, and we distribute it to all our members at a meeting. And we say, is there anybody here that if you know one of these individuals personally, you see them at work, you see them at a grocery store, you see them somewhere, talk to them. And we find out that then that reduces that list down 75% automatically.
I love it. Thank you. Teamwork. This is, you just you added to this slide already, Jim, the first bullet there. But the retention chairman is the leader of it, trustees, and pretty much anybody else that you can get on board. If you can get the whole council involved, that would be magical. The FS is not. What is the role of the retention committee? They're assigned to Brother Knights to personally contact and discuss the situation. So especially with COVID, we want to find out if people are sick or out of work because of the COVID situation, and we want to make the appropriate arrangements to help them stay in the order. Remember, we are not getting a supreme billing this year. We're not getting the assessments for culture of life and Catholic advertising, but we do still have the state liability, the state per capita that needs to be paid, but all of the supreme billing is off the table. The only thing with Supreme you have to pay are really your supplies. If you ordered coats for kids or forms or something that you use for programs. So what happens if when they can't contact the night? Well, you have to try again. You use a search tool to obtain valid contact information. We talked about some of those yesterday in the breakout. You use search tools. We also talked about Facebook and LinkedIn, Family Tree Now. I think there were a couple of others that were mentioned. Let me see if I can find my note here. White pages, and there's one more. Follow up with me if you guys have a question. I think there's a couple others that can be used. Generally speaking, we're only advocating for the free services. There was a question on the breakouts, Dave, that we didn't answer that you might be hearing later, whether the state would be willing to pay for a paid service at some point for looking up these people. But that's a topic for another time. So we want to make sure that bad phone numbers don't end the attempted conversations and connections. So Lonnie has something to say about something that works really well for him. And he's probably the reason he is in the seat he's in as retention chairman, because he is probably one of the best, if not the best in the state for membership retention. And he is not afraid. He advocates for door knocking as a solution to many of our ills, right? So you want to make sure that the personal contact isn't limited by phone and email conversations, right? We see usually the guys are, oh, I emailed them, didn't get a response. We called and left a message. We don't know if they've gone into an old age home or, a assisted care facility or anything like that, or moved in with their child in another state or something, right? I mean, we want to try to keep up with that kind of information, but things happen where they might still want to be Knights, but for some reason we've lost touch with them, and we need to do what we can to find out what's going on with them. We also want to help them transfer to Arizona or wherever it is, if it's possible. The bottom line is, guys, I mean, especially the older guys, we want to make sure that we're going to honor and serve them for as long as we have them with us, right? And, you know, some of these guys were really active guys in their heyday. We may not even know them, but they may have a tremendous history with the Knights of Columbus that we're just not familiar with. And we want to honor that service and that commitment. And, you know, for later, for guys who are just learning about it, they're coming up in the ranks now, they may not know everything that guy did in his heyday. We don't want to turn our backs on those guys. We want to honor their service and do everything we can as Knights to honor them and serve them. So I don't know if I said that very clearly, but I think it's fraternally, seriously, very important as a fraternal organization that we keep in mind that we don't know everybody's track records, and we want to do what's right for our guys.
Patrick, if you'll permit, I can add something there. If there is a case where you are carrying a member because of hardship or because of a reason such as Patrick suggested, that he is a veteran that you know is in a supported living home and just cannot pay the dues. If there is such a case, then please send a letter to me, and we, on a case-by-case basis, we will decide whether to reduce the council's per capita for that member. Now, this is not a get-out-of-jail-free card for any members that you can't get in touch with or anything like that. So please make that clear to the council. This is a way so that the councils don't have the hardship of carrying members who are currently unable to pay the dues due to hardship or for one of the reasons we suggested. It will be treated on a case-by-case basis, and the state deputy's decision is final. If I get a list, oh, here's a bunch of people that we're carrying, I'm sorry, that's going to be a little suspicious. And so, it's got to be on a case-by-case basis. I need a letter, not an email, from the Grand Knight explaining on a case-by-case basis what the reason is, and we will consider reducing the councils per capita. Is that clear, do you think, Patrick?
Clear to me, Dave.
Okay, thank you.
And I think council should make fraternal provision for this kind of situation. If they need, I'm hoping they're not going to reach out to the state for relief if it's one or two members, right? So, but I think your statement stands for itself. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're contacting members who are in arrears, and we have right now we just talked about the third notice, right? So this is sort of an interim description of what the retention committee should be doing. And documenting what you did means what did you do to try to reach them? We want to make sure we are not suspending honorary and honorary life members, guys, okay? And if the council isn't checking that, they really ought to be. The thing that I want everybody on this call to be aware of is the district deputy is actually part of the membership retention process. We are asking councils to inform their district deputies before they actually suspend or process the final step in retention. That's what the membership request for membership suspension form does. It documents the council's attempts to contact the member, what happened when they did contact the member, and if they want to leave the order, then that can be clearly stated, right? They refuse to pay and possibly refuse to send a letter of withdrawal. Lots of things happen, but we want that to be documented. And if it's documented well and we get the forms, it's done. We just process it, right? So, but when the call gets made by the retention committee, we want to speak to the wife if possible, be positive, listen to their concerns and issues, and do what we can to help resolve them. As I mentioned, helping transfer for unreachable members, I think it was self-explanatory. Oftentimes the proposer knows the person or has known him in the past and has a way of getting in touch with finding out from the family what's going on with the person. And as I said earlier, door knocking is a reasonable request and expectation, right? And generally speaking, making this a team effort actually can make it a little easier for guys to do, and a little more palatable as well. So jumping back to the sequence, after the contact's been made, whether it was in the second step or third step, if there's something to report, meaning the person wants to withdraw or the person has a hardship, obviously if the person's going to pay, the person pays, but the retention chairman reports back to the Grand Knight the results of the contacts, and then you can process this request form I just mentioned. I'll be sending this out to everybody. At the same time, the financial secretary sends that third notice, or also known as the Knight Alert Letter, which has to be signed by the Grand Knight and retention chair, and that goes to the member. Okay. If a hardship or disability has been detected, the Grand Knight should be waiving his dues and documenting that accordingly. Okay, now if the Knight Alert Letter, the third notice, doesn't accomplish the goal of having the member pay his dues, the arrangement hasn't been made either by credit card or whatever other means the council is using to accept payment, then and only then is the intent to retain Form 1845 prepared and sent to Supreme, signed by Grand Knight and Financial Secretary. This is not just done in member management. It's a hard copy form that has to be submitted to Supreme, as well as mailed to the member. The form is only available through Supplies Online, and Financial Secretary should have these. This is sort of the beginning of the suspension process, and this is where the alchemy happens, right? So everybody should be listening and understand this part, because this is the trickiest part of the whole shebang. We really don't want these 1845s to be submitted until this request for membership suspension has been given to the district deputy for processing. District deputy is expected to make sure that the contacts documented really happened and that there is nothing else to be done to suspend the member. But once that 1845 is processed, what happens is it creates a report called the conservation report. Sorry, I had a mental brain lapse there. The conservation report. The conservation report is created at multiple levels. Every district, if you have councils that submit Form 1845s that are accepted by Supreme, your council and their members will show up on your district deputy's conservation report listing that Saturday. This happens every Saturday. So district deputies, if you weren't aware of this form, I'm asking you now to start looking for that in your reports every week and see if you have any suspensions happening. Because when that thing is created, you now have 60 days to try to conserve the member. It's possible that the contacts we've been talking about here didn't happen, and that 60-day window is the last chance we have to retain these members and get them to pay their dues. Okay, so there's a 60-day window in which the 1845 is received by Supreme and suspension can happen. The 60 days exists for the sole purpose of allowing us to follow up with the member and try to retain them. The 60 days doesn't exist because we want to make it harder for the council. It doesn't exist because we're hoping that the council will forget about processing it. There's no secret reason or, that we're trying to trick the councils in any way here. This is because this entire process is designed to help men stay as Knights of Columbus. We recognize that lots of things can happen, we talked about some of them already, with guys moving to different assisted living facilities and other stuff happening in their lives. We want to make sure we've done everything we can to help them stay as Knights of Columbus. Okay. So what happens is that the Supreme Knight and Retention Director here send letters to the Brother Knights. You'll find out that if you're a Retention Director, you'll find out that every person who withdraws also gets a letter from the Supreme Knight, and the State Retention Director gets a copy of it. But the Conservation Report, both when you get the request for membership suspension and when you get the Conservation Report, you should follow up with those guys to see if they've been contacted and if there's anything we can do to retain them. So the 1845 is received by Supreme, and there's a date on it, right? So I think I have one here. You guys see this? There's a 1845 receipt date in this column right here. And that's the date the clock starts for the 60 days for membership retention. What happens is that, well, pretty much nothing happens. It's just sort of it's a warning sign here, and it gives us a chance to contact the member. But after the 60 days after that date, the council has to file a Form 100 for suspension in order to complete the suspension process. Okay, so if this gets processed and nobody submits a Form 100, signed Form 100 for suspension, the whole process starts over again. The guy falls off the conservation list, and the guy will not be suspended. So the final step has to be followed by the council, where they submit a Form 100 for suspension, and that completes the suspension process. That's there because it's possible the council could receive dues in that 60 days, and they want to be sure. We want to be sure that the guy still is still due to be suspended. So the default is to not suspend them. There has to be an intentional action in order to suspend a member. Okay. So now 60 days is the starting period. 90 days is the end of it. So if it goes 90 days after that date that the 1845 was accepted, that's when they fall off the list. Okay, so between 60 and 90 days is the window that the council has to submit the Form 100. Okay, I'm hoping that's clear, or clear as mud anyway. But that's sort of the retention process. The request for membership suspension form is provided so the councils can document the efforts they've made to contact the member. That goes to the district deputy and then the retention director in order to make it easier, so that there is actually a notice that goes to the state deputy that says, hey, you've got these guys, we've got these guys who are about to be suspended. Are you okay with that? It is possible for the state deputy to not accept that. Right, so that's why we want to make sure that we have the request for suspension in order to sort of avoid having to have a lot of questions when that step happens. Okay. That was a delightful presentation, wasn't it? I don't see anybody asleep out there. Maybe it's time for me to put my lights on, see if you guys are awake out there. Okay, I got through the billing process. This is my celebratory thing here. So let's talk about roundtables briefly. Am I ahead of time or am I on time now, or overtime?
Sorry, Patrick, I had to find the unmute. You run a little over, but we did have a 15-minute slack in this thing. And if you're about to hit roundtables, that's good if you want to go straight on to roundtables. I did have you after other stuff, but it makes sense to just talk about roundtables.
Yeah, I'll go right in. There's really not a lot to say on roundtables. I had 5 minutes. I'm going to go under 5 minutes. Roundtables exist for the purpose of supporting Specific parishes when a council is a multi-parish council. So in order to have programs running in every parish, it's difficult for a council that has a hall to support multiple parishes unless your council leadership is from each parish, right? That doesn't always happen either. So in order to address that and address the needs of the pastor, the roundtable exists as a liaison between the parish, their parish pastor / priest, and the needs of the parish and the actual council leadership. So organizing and promoting the needs of the parish happen in the roundtable, and it's supposed to be a vehicle by which communication happens up and down, meaning communication from the council goes to the parish and communication from the parish goes to the council. So the ideal situation would be that you have programs running to support every parish, and that you have members from every parish being recruited on an ongoing basis. If you're not conducting a Delta drive, when you're conducting Delta drives in every parish, then you should be looking at your roundtables and whether you have them sufficiently built up, right? Because if you have 5 parishes and you're only recruiting from one of them, there's obviously something missing, right? There's an opportunity lost. So if at all possible, we want to be inviting in every parish. We want to strengthen every parish. We want to strengthen our representation in every parish. And the roundtable is the way to do it. The roundtable coordinator is the person who is that liaison that works directly with the pastor in that parish. And they submit the report every year about their status. And I believe you have to appoint your roundtable chairman every year. And that is all I have to say on roundtables. It's pretty much what I just said. Oh, ethnic roundtables, it's possible to have ethnic roundtables. That's happening somewhat, like we have one at St. Al's, moderate success. Basically, it's to help with their specific needs. If you have a Spanish language roundtable, help them sort of bring the Hispanic men together to run programs, organize programs, and to have meetings in their own language, right? But basically the same dynamic occurs where there's a relationship between the roundtable and the overall council as a whole.
Yeah, I absolutely, Patrick. Thank you. I would add a couple of things. One is that I believe that every council that supports multiple parishes should have a roundtable in every one of those other parishes, and a coordinator appointed for each one. And he should, if there are separate meetings, he should attend both meetings so that he can liaise between the council and the roundtable. That's one point. The other is, if you have an ethnic roundtable, that's really helps in many ways. One is that, as Patrick says, that they can have meetings in their own language. Obviously, the coordinator would need to be bilingual, and not just speak a few words of Spanish like me, but enough to be able to make discussions and really liaise. Because in many cases, the ethnic group have their own festivals that they probably want to have. The Sweet 16 festival and others that. The Posada that, Patrick, I know, is very fond of the Posada. Those kind of things, they are festivals that the ethnic group probably want to have, and they're going to need help from the main council too. So we need that liaison between the two. So I think it's a very important feature that is underused, certainly in our council, in our state, and I think in the order in general. I think roundtables has, the opportunity to really be great to encourage members to join in ethnic groups, members to join in other parishes, to join a council. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you, Patrick. That was great. I know it's a tough subject, is retention, very tough subject, and people always have trouble with it. And I think your step-by-step slides there are going to help a lot of people. Thank you very much. So the next one we have, I'm going to invite our general agent that is here right now, I hope. I'm going to invite Lloyd to speak. I'm not sure whether any other GAs made it. I did invite the other GAs, but I think we just have Lloyd. But if there is another GA, then just speak up and we'll give you time to speak. Thank you, Lloyd.
Joe Collette's going to lead off with a couple comments. He's on.
Fantastic. Okay.
Hello, thank you, gentlemen. So I just wanted to share a little bit about the fraternal benefits nights that we have been having. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Okay, so the general agents along with Supreme partnered up, and we had a renowned retirement specialist, Tom Hagna, join us for a seminar, and we had about 1,000 members in attendance, which was awesome. Just wanted to really stress the importance to everyone to get the word out to all of our councils that, you know, Supreme is really being generous with the fraternal benefits nights, counting for insurance quota. So, you know, we don't want to scramble at the end of June with everyone trying to get their fraternal benefits nights met in order to count. So please work with your councils, get the word out. Again, our agents are doing everything that we can to work with the councils and to have these virtual fraternal benefits nights. We are going to be looking at having another guest speaker sometime in the near future, but all of our agents are more than prepared to host either virtual or in person when appropriate. So just wanted to kind of get that word out there that thank you everyone for participating in the Tom Hagna seminar, and again, just continued support. Thank you for your support of the insurance program. That's all I have. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, brothers. I'm going to talk a little bit about some general agent stuff and also some new council development. I was really inspired yesterday by Carl Anderson, by Joe George, and also by the video we saw, the A Witness to the World. I had a set thing that I was going to talk about, and then I changed it just because of those three things right there. I got this. This is hanging in my training room. I don't know if you can read what's behind me, but it says, "The devil whispered in my ear, 'You're not strong enough to withstand the storm.' Today I whispered in the devil's ear, 'I am a child of God, a man of faith, a warrior of Christ. I am the storm.'" I bought this a couple years ago. I read it every day because it's a huge poster in my office. Carl Anderson kind of touched on that we're actually standing in the breach for all the problems that the Catholic Church has in our recruiting with coronavirus. Every challenge that we have to make sure that we're keeping true to our mission. In our mission, in the video, the Witness for the World. In that video, it kind of touched on that why the foreign councils are so excited. We kind of forgot the reasons that we're knights. We've gone into the mundane of our daily routine or our monthly routine as councils. I love talking to the new councils and the councils that are coming, and I'll touch about that in a second. I want to talk about recruiting and retention. The worthy state deputy said that if you could have a recruiting specialist and he'd be working for free, would you have one? And of course, he said it's your field agent. I want to make sure that the council is not relying totally on us. Everybody has the same opportunities as we do for recruiting. We just do it kind of second nature. But everybody knows people that aren't knights and that should be knights. And so I want to make sure everybody is responsible for recruiting one new member a year. If you think about that, if everybody recruited one new member a year, we'd double our numbers, right? So what if every other person recruited a new member? Well, we'd still be way above our membership quota. That's what I tell my guys. I have recruiting incentives for my guys to make sure that they're out there recruiting and supporting the councils. Each general agent is doing that. But we can't be your sole recruiters. There's just not enough of us to do that for you. Last year, I recruited 7 people myself that I took credit for. I recruited a lot more that I had fathers sign and stuff like that. So please work with your agents. Make sure that you're coordinating with them for recruiting drives and stuff like that. A lot of times I've gotten complaints from my guys that, yeah, they had a recruiting drive last Sunday. I had no idea about it. Okay. And I'll tell them that retention works both ways, or that works both ways. We have to be in contact with each of you as well. But don't forget them, please. We're getting into a very impersonal world. I'm going to touch on retention. We tend to want to send an email, leave a message, things of that nature. One thing that Jeremy mentioned in the chat room is to put a personal note on the bill. Okay. When I worked on retention for one of the councils that I worked with as a field agent, I would handwrite notes. And I'm a big fan of handwriting notes. Some of you have gotten a handwritten note from me. But we have that form letter that I absolutely despise because it's so impersonal. Okay, my son got one of those last couple of years ago. I was mad for 2 reasons. One, he got that, he was suspended, and I never got a phone call. So when you're doing that, make sure you talk to somebody that might know that guy, that can write him a personal note, make a personal phone call. Guys, we're brothers. Why would we do that to another brother? Just to, to not make it personal. Because it was personal when they joined. Okay? And so I'm very passionate about that. The Lakeville Council is one of the councils I used to work with as an agent. They had a calling tree. Every single meeting, somebody called me to invite me to the meeting. I'm not sure they're doing that, but they had a great retention. They had like 100, and I think when I started, 140 members, and at least 50 showed up. And that's because of that personal contact, that calling tree, even leaving a message. When's the last time one of your councils did something like that? Those are all ideas to help with retention. The suspension's already talked about. Make it personal, personal invite. The best person that's going to bring somebody in that's not paying is the person that brought them in, or one of their friends. Okay, especially during this time of COVID. Am I the only one that hears that? It sounded like a plane. The insurance side of the Knights, we've actually stepped up to the challenge for this year. We're actually even with 2019 as far as what production we've done. I was astounded at that because for a while there we couldn't meet in homes. There are a lot of people that still don't want to meet in homes. So we've changed and we have evolved to where we can do Skype meetings, Teams, and actually sell a policy over the internet. I'm looking at where we're at on the fraternal side. What can we do? What can we innovate? What can we change? I don't think recruiting needs to be any less than it was before. Actually, we need it to be better than it was before. And so, I encourage us to kind of think outside the box. There's church groups that have Zoom meetings. There's a lot of things that my guys are finding out that we can tap into. You have youth groups. I don't know if any of you heard Theology on Tap. That's a group of a bunch of millennials. They used to get together and drink beer and talk about theology. That was much different than when I was at that age and drank beer. But those are things that we need to be starting getting into. Make sure the Watchman groups are doing okay. There's a lot of opportunity there that we may be missing. And so I want to encourage everybody to kind of get into those groups because that's where we're recruiting the most. Okay. Carl Anderson talks about that we're most effective in the parish. The Worthy State Deputy had mentioned that as well. We are effective in the parish. If you have multiple parishes and you don't have a round table in that, shame on you. because you don't have visibility in that parish. And that roundtable should lead to a new council for that parish. That's the whole purpose of the roundtables. Joe George mentioned, and I'm going into new council development. Joe George mentioned yesterday, faith in action is what sets us apart from other groups. I tell every new priest that I talk to, you know, that has a men's group, that's concerned about the men's group, why should I have the Knights of Columbus? And I tell them we're not going to be in competition for the men's group, but we can add to it, and they can add to us. But what makes us different is all the programs we do. Leave no neighbor behind, especially. And I asked them, you know, how many in your men's group, how many people are calling the members of your parish to check on them? And the answer is always nothing, okay? So, Joe, you were spot on with that, and I appreciate you saying that. We also talked about, gosh, that video, for the world, a witness for the world. My God, if you're not going to show that in your parishes, you're going to see what I've seen with these foreign parishes, the Eastern Rite parishes. Once they found out what the Knights of Columbus were about, they were excited. And I think when I talk to other parishes or other priests in parishes that don't have a council, they have their own vision of what the Knights are. And unfortunately, it's normally not a good vision. And one guy told me he didn't want another old man's group in the parish. He wants someone that's going to take the lead. And that's what we are. That's how we were founded. And that Witness for the World talked about why they were excited. There's one priest, I didn't write his name down, I didn't catch it fast enough, but his vision, his image of the Knights of Columbus was, yeah, they provide the money, check the box, and move on. Okay? How many of you remember that priest that said that? That is kind of the image that we have. I tell my guys, the biggest mistake you can make with a client is write them and forget them. You write them a policy and then you don't contact them anymore. That is the worst thing you can possibly do. I was very successful as an agent because anybody that I wrote any insurance on, I contacted them quarterly. Okay? So that's important that we do the same thing on the fraternal side. Make sure we're contacting our members. Make sure if you have a roundtable in the parish, to make sure that that's an active roundtable, that there actually has the visibility in the parish. I've had a couple priests complain that they were part of a larger council, and the only time they've seen the council members is when they needed to recruit members. Right? We shouldn't have that reputation, guys. They should tell us, hey, we really appreciate you guys bringing the Coats for Kids, or any of the other 28 programs we have. The newest council we have in the Byzantine Church in North Minneapolis, he is so excited to have a council during this time because he's counting on us to get the word out to all the other parishioners that go there on a regular basis that that have fallen away. And he's going to use the council to start calling and to start inviting people back or making sure they're okay. That's, guys, that's our basic mission. Okay, protect our families and to lead in the church, lead other men into the church. Father Sorrell I've been working with him for over a year, and I think it's God's providence because I got a young man named Andre Estevez who wanted to become an agent, and I had him on board and I asked him what your parish is, and he goes, St. John the Byzantine. I'm like, you know, do you know Father Sorrell? And he goes, yes. And so I think it was God's providence that was the next step for that parish and for the Knights of Columbus. So, brothers, that's all I got. I really appreciate the time, and I'm open for if you guys want to contact me with any questions, any help, and especially if you have any ideas for other parishes that need, and every parish needs a council. So, Worthy State Deputy, I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Lloyd. We appreciate everything you do, and it's not for nothing that a large number of the recruiters are from the agencies. That's good to see, but as you point out, we should not rely solely on the agencies. It's everybody's job to be a recruiter. And one thing you said, if what did you say? If every other night in the state recruited, we would beat our goal. Well, if only 1 in 10 nights recruited, that would be 4,000 members. That would be 4 times our goal. So what that really means is if 1 in 40 nights, that doesn't sound too difficult, does it? If 1 in 40 nights recruited 1 member, that would cover our goal easily. Wow. Seems easy, doesn't it? How come we don't beat it every year? And the other thing I wanted to just mention, when you were talking about suspension, please know, everybody, please know that suspension is not the final word. That doesn't mean the guy is out of the Knights of Columbus. That means he is suspended. And he can be reinstated anytime. Depending on the amount of time that he's been suspended, it can be a very simple process, or it can be a little bit more difficult. But he is still a knight. He's just a suspended knight. I myself was suspended early in my days as a knight. I became a knight in Canada, and then a couple of years later moved down to the States, and they lost touch with me, and so I ended up being suspended. And then I was reinstated when I joined my council here in Osseo, Maple Grove. So it's not the end of the line. It's not the end of the world. It's easy. It should be easy to get men who have been suspended back into the Knights, especially when it's just a mistake, like it kind of was with me and like it was with Lloyd's son. So good. Thank you again. Okay, so the next thing is I have a short presentation that was given to me by Don Trudeau, our state ceremonials director. And if you'll forgive me, I will run through it. I'm not going to be really smart on it because it's not my presentation, and you know how that is doing somebody else's presentation. You don't always know what they meant. So let me just bring it up. Okay, you should be able to see that. Ceremonials by Don Trudeau, our ceremonials director. Okay, all this is taking clicks. All right. So reported data. Now, many of you know I was ceremonials director for 8 years here in the States, here in Minnesota, and I used to tear my hair out every year because people were not reporting degrees to us in the state. It's so important that we know what's going on, that we know who's holding degrees, how many people are coming in, how good they are, all those things, and that should be reported on a 450 for every degree that is held by your council or by your district should be reported on a 450. So Don is saying here that 240 members came into the state in this period, and it looks like 24 members were reported out of 240. So you know that really shows that we're not getting the 450s submitted as we should. Of course, you know, we're having to do so many things virtually these days, and one of the things is exemplifications. While you know we still, what Patrick is holding something up here, I'm not quite sure what. Okay, so you can still do exemplifications at the council level. You can do it, you know, by wearing your masks, keeping, you know, the social distance and all those kind of things, or you can do a virtual one. And the state does, and I'm never quite sure whether we actually did get that 4th Wednesday going, but at least 3 Wednesdays in the month, in each month, we have a state team that does a virtual presentation, and you can find it on the website. Easy to find and easy to register. And of course, I should have mentioned back there, there's always the on-demand ceremonial that is always available from Supreme, and that is a good backup. In fact, one of my recruits, I had them both signed up to come to the virtual ceremony that the state was putting on. One of them, for some reason, couldn't get in, and but that same evening, he just went on and got the on-demand one from the Supreme, and so both my recruits took their became third-degree members that night, even though one wasn't able to get on. So there's always that. That's always a good backup. And as Don points out here, if each council, I believe, is responsible for presenting new members with the certificate and the rosary and the emblem of the order. Now, I may be corrected about that. Perhaps ones that are done by Supreme, they get these from Supreme, but I'd have to be corrected. If Don was here, I'm sure he would know. Maybe Patrick knows too, I don't know. So,
You can't count on Supreme. You can't count on Supreme sending him out anymore.
Right. Okay. I think that yes, you're absolutely right. I remember getting that message. So really, the council should keep track of members that come in, either on the state virtual degrees or through Supreme. They should keep track of that and make sure that the member gets a certificate of membership of third degree, a pin, and a rosary if they took their first degree with that in that degree ceremony. So you can also still do the video degrees. There is a video which can be supplied by Supreme, and you can do that as play the video just as we used to have the old first degree video. Oh, he mentions here again, all right, he does say the first, second, and third Wednesdays of the month. I know we are working on a fourth one if we haven't got that going already. This looks like a long link, but you can find it pretty easily on the state website. If you go to the state website, that's where you register. And registration just gives Don Trudeau the name of the candidate, his email address, and all those things. He will then get in touch with the candidate and give him the link for the registration for the degree, and make sure that the council knows too. So here we go. So candidates will receive a Zoom notice. He will contact the council and the district deputy. He will send out the certificate. The council is responsible for the rosary and the emblem. Okay. Reporting on the Form 50, of course, we still have, I think, the old Form 50 just shows 3 separate degrees. Of course, it's not like that anymore. We have a single degree for first, second, and third. So you just please don't fill out that section of first, second, and third. Okay, he did also send me a copy of the 450, which I'll probably be able to bring up, so you can read these bullets here. And of course, send to ceremonials@kfc.org, which is of course Supreme. Send to me, and also send to Don Trudeau. Of course, our email addresses are on the state website. Thank you very much. I'll have a quick look and see if I can find the 450, and then I can share that with you. Just give me one moment, please. All right, I'm just bringing up the PDF, and I will share that with you. Okay, this is the degree exemplification report form, and as you can see, there's a lot here about different things that we do not want to be filled in. So do not fill in this area. All we need is Minnesota, your district number, the actual date of the degree, host council, so that we know that, who submitted this, should be coming from the financial secretary, and the membership number. That's really all that needs to be submitted on the form 450. I'm trying to drag this up and down, and it's not wanting to let me drag it. No, won't let me drag it anymore. But I think that's pretty clear. So that's all I want to talk about on the
Scroll down.
ceremonials. Yes.
You can scroll down on the right, I think, Dave.
Yeah, I know, but I can't get at it because yeah,
Oh, you got too much stuff in the way.
yeah, I got stuff in the way. Absolutely.
The little toolbar to the left of that.
There we go. Yeah, at one point it was letting me drag it with the hand there, but so down at the bottom, he does want the members filling in here and the council number and how many new members and so on. Yeah, so he did want more than just that bit at the top. Okay.
Agree. Holy moly.
Yeah, it was a good one, wasn't it? Okay, so I'm now going to ask our district master, Jim Witzman, to say a few words about the 4th degree. Jim, are you ready? You are currently muted, Jim. I don't know whether you're speaking.
Hang on. No,
There you
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me okay?
We can now, yes.
All right, let me bring up my screen. Now, could you see my screen or do I need to?
You need to, down at the bottom is the share screen button there. You see the green button at the bottom of your Zoom window.
Yeah, I gotta get back to the Zoom window. Hold on. Let me shrink that down. I'll go here, share screen. All right, how's that? Can you see that?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, let me
You
try
should be able to select the screen you want to share, and then you can say, yes, share this screen.
There it is.
There we go. It's coming out.
There we go. Okay, is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So thank you to our worthy state deputy, Dave, for letting me speak. Thanks for everybody who's here today, attending this on a Sunday afternoon. It's my pleasure to present to you the report of the 4th degree, provide you some updates on what's coming up, and share some information for you that you can take back to your councils. One of the things about district deputies is you have more of a positive effect on your councils than you may know. It may not be the current grand night or even next year's grand night, but as we talk about things that need to change, change is slow and comes eventually. Maybe the 3rd or 4th grand night that you've touched base with that is actually helping to implement the things that we want them to do. So don't get frustrated with sometimes the stuff can get pretty quick. First thing I want to talk about is membership in the 4th degree. Just to kind of give everybody kind of an idea as to the makeup of the District of Minnesota. So we begin the fraternal year with just under 4,000 members in 43 assemblies across the state. 4th degree makes up about 10% of the total state Knights of Columbus membership. Nationally, I think that number is closer to 15%. So we're a little low, but due to the cancellations of exemplifications and the number of deaths that we've had and a few transfers, we're actually down about 49 members from that. But the good news is we added 21, so we are making some progress. So part of what I need your help with as you go out and talk with the Grand Knights and the councils that are there. One of the things that I've experienced is sometimes there's a reluctance by Grand Knights to recruit and promote the fourth degree. Part of that is because they believe that once the member gets into the fourth degree, they won't be active in the third degree anymore. And the message really needs to go back and let them know that fourth degree members actually strengthen their local councils. If you look at a lot of the councils, at least a lot of the ones that I'm familiar with, the majority of the council officers are fourth degree. So they don't just disappear and become fourth degree and we never see them in our council member ever again. And most of our state leadership, from the state officers themselves to the district deputies, to the program chairman, most of those gentlemen are fourth degree members as well. And as you guys know, they're all very active in their councils as well. So we just need help making sure that as we're trying to promote the fourth degree, we're not trying to steal people away from the council. We really need them to make sure that we get the message out. So for example, in my council, we have about 225 council members. 47 of them are fourth degree, and they make up about 90% of the leadership and probably about 80% of the participation at all the fundraisers or whatever activities we have within the council or things that we're doing to support the church. So in some cases, we actually get them busier in the council once they become fourth degree and get pulled in by other fourth degree members to say, hey, come help me with this over at the church as well. So that is something that's there, but I think it's a stigma that continues to provide some challenges for us. So councils and assemblies need to partner to help grow the order. If we can promote the fourth degree, we can actually help make our council stronger. As you talked through, we talked a little bit yesterday about the new meeting organization. The fourth degree is still a line item on the new meeting organization for the general meetings. So we need your help getting the message out to each of these councils to allow that report of the fourth degree to occur. Let the third degree members understand all of the other things that are going on in the fourth degree in your assembly at the state level, whatever it happens to be, that they do have opportunities to participate in. And then I'm asking each navigator from each assembly to make sure that they've reached out to all of the councils within their assembly and make sure that we have a fourth degree liaison assigned to that council to help assist the Grand Knight and the membership director. Our membership director for our council is a fourth degree member, past district deputy as well, and does a really good job of helping coordinate all those things and let people know what's going on. So if you're not able to make it to one of your council meetings as an assembly officer or a member of the assembly, let's just make sure somebody gets the report there and let them know what's going on. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit is exemplifications. And I know many of you are aware, we had to cancel the spring and the fall exemplification for 2020 due to the COVID restrictions. Just not enough ability to put enough people in a room to hold those exemplifications. So we've worked the last couple of months trying to put together a virtual exemplification, and we have that scheduled for January 9th. It's on a Saturday morning. It's kind of a hybrid. It's not all Zoom, but for the majority of it will be. And what we're going to do at this point, unless things change, is the degree team themselves will participate live as a team, just as they would for any other exemplification. And what we've asked each assembly to do that has candidates participating in this exemplification is to find some place close by for their assembly that they can use that has the video capability and strong Wi-Fi signal, and they can have their navigator, their comptroller, their guard commander there with 2 or 3 candidates, and they can participate remotely while we're doing it in another location. So currently we have 22 candidates identified from And you can see from multiple areas of the state, Minneapolis, Brainerd, Rochester, Duluth, St. Paul, Wilmer, all over the place. So there'll be virtual sites there, and any assembly can put a site up that they can get into and invite one or two of their members to come in. So we're not trying to exceed, COVID restrictions. And we will be letting each of the navigators know for that site, what kinds of things they need to know. We'll have to provide sign-in sheets and, COVID tracking and masks and all those kinds of things. But those are just some of the challenges we're facing for other COVID environments as well. So that's going to happen in January. This will be the first time we've done a virtual. It's the first time we've done a winter one in January. So we're looking for that. So please get the word out. If you know candidates who are interested and really don't feel like they could travel to northern Minnesota or southern Minnesota to attend an exemplification, this is a great opportunity for them to do that. Then the spring exemplifications coming up in April. It's being hosted by the Brainerd Assembly, and it will be up at Chase the Lake, which is where it was scheduled last year. Currently, when we met with them about a month ago, they still have some severe COVID restrictions in place. So, depending on what's going on there, we may be able to move some of the events to the local church if the COVID really continues to take off and we're in lockdown. We may try to replicate what we're doing in January and do a virtual one. So we're trying to be prepared for both. And then the next one after that would be the summer one, which is usually just a one-dayer as well. And the date scheduled for July 17th, we just have not secured a host assembly or a location for that. So if anybody's interested, please give me a holler. The last thing I wanted to touch on a little bit, and I guess I was not aware of, why is it not shifting to the next one? There we go. How big of a thing Veterans Affairs was for the Knights of Columbus and specifically for the 4th degree. So there, within the Veterans Affairs Services program, that is a patriotic program for the 4th degree. And it's basically called Serving Those Who Served. So it's a national program. Supreme 4th degree has really picked this up as something that we can easily do in all of the areas of the nation. And what we're trying to do is provide liaisons to the various Veterans Administration areas within your local state or city, and make sure that we've got somebody representing the Knights of Columbus within each of those facilities. That way, as those different groups are looking for providing services of some kind, voluntary services to our veterans, the Knights can be there to reach out to help. In some cases, I know some of you have been around for quite a while as well, you may remember Bob Quigley from Nicollet Assembly. He was a representative for the Veterans Affairs, and that's what really started what the Assembly still does today with collecting socks for vets every year. So they collect about 2,000 pair of socks every year and take them over to the VA at the beginning of the year and make sure that they're available for the veterans, so they got clean, warm socks to put on when they get there. But that's just a small thing that's going on the side. And this is an opportunity for us to get kind of a bigger picture, figure out all the different things that the Knights can do, and how do we do that and support our veterans all at the same time. So you'll hear more about this within your assemblies and probably within some of your councils as we're trying to talk to people about, let's make sure that we have a local council or a local assembly that's near these facilities that can kind of adopt that facility. And if there's things that they need, whether it's, packing food baskets or collecting socks or doing whatever it is that we can do to help our veterans, that makes it a very easy program for us to pick up on and do something other than, dinner meetings or council meetings or, whatever else that we're working on, and leverage some of the opportunities that we have. There's no reason why we couldn't do, Coats for Vets just like we do for Coats for Kids. So there's a lot of things that we can we can put in and reutilize and not have to reinvent the wheel as long as we know what some of those opportunities are. So I wanted to make you guys available of it, aware of it, so that if you start hearing some talk about, well, gee, I didn't know this was going on, or, you know, we do this. For example, there's a group in Bloomington, and prior to COVID, they provided a mass service for the veterans every Saturday, you know, all year long, and which is quite an undertaking. But that's just something that kind of happens off to the side. Nobody really knows about it. At some point, it would roll up into this organization. But they're kind of, the organization doesn't know they're doing it, and they don't know the organization's looking for, you know, acknowledgement that that's happening, so they can kind of control what's going on. So that's the end of my report. Worthy State Deputy, if people have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Worthy District Master. So anyone who is on this call who is not a member of the fourth degree, I absolutely encourage you to look into joining the fourth degree. It adds a whole new dimension to being a knight, and you will wonder why you never did it before. So I encourage everybody, if you're not a member, join the fourth degree. I would say that I personally enjoy my fourth degree weekends when we get together to do the in-person degree. It's not going to be quite the same, not having the big banquet and all the other things. But if travel is a problem, then you know this virtual one is a good time to join. Thank you, Jim. Quick presentation. We're now getting into the administration stuff, and I'm sure lots of people are interested in what's happening with the state convention. So I just have a single slide on that subject, and let's bring it up here. There we go. Okay, so the dates originally planned are May 14th, which is a Friday, through 16th, which is a Sunday, at the St. Cloud Holiday Inn and Suites in St. Cloud. It's a hotel that I'm sure many of you know very well. We've been there many times in the past. It's the junction of two major roads through St. Cloud. I think it's 15 and 25, something like that. Very accessible. It's a large hotel, got 257 rooms, and they also have another hotel that can be used as backup for any members that register after the 257 is taken. 5 pools, including, you know, paddling pool and for kids, and it's just great for families. So I encourage you to bring families. 2 restaurants and of course a bar, but there will be lots of hospitality places set up anyway. Room cost, I think, is very reasonable, $119. Cost of the meals, I think, is still being worked out, but comparable to previous conventions. Ladies outing is planned to go to the Paramount Theatre. I'm not sure what the show is going to be, but the theatre, and then the Munsinger Gardens. I'm not aware of what the Munsinger Gardens is, but I'm assured it's a beautiful garden for walking. So if assuming the weather is reasonable, and I believe the ladies outing is $25, which is fairly normal. Now, of course, I have to add a caveat here that this is dependent upon COVID restrictions. So as we get into the first few months of the year, we'll have to see how COVID is looking and what the recommendations are from our governor and from Supreme, and we'll see what happens. I can't say any more than that, because as we all know, it changes on a weekly basis. We don't really know what things are going to be like. We know that there are 3 vaccines going to be available, and you know, maybe that will make a huge difference and everything will be wide open again by then, but we can't know for sure. So that's all I've got to say. I don't think there was any, no, there was just that one slide. Next on the agenda, I've got Jesse. Do you have a presentation to give? Oh, no, you don't. Do you want to talk then briefly about forms and reports?
Yep, we can talk a little bit about that. As you guys see weekly, I send out a report on the 3 major reports that we have going, as well as safe environment. I know Dave's going to talk more about safe environment, but 185s, we're currently missing 21 of our active councils. The 365, we're missing 76, and the August audit, which is due way back in August, we're still missing 53 of the councils. So we still have a lot of work to catch up on that. And no surprise to everybody, the end of December, we have to do another audit. So we're moving into the February audit coming up that's getting due. Some upcoming reports that are due this time of year. Every year, partnership with Special Olympics, the Form 4584. We still need to do this and get that sent out to Supreme. You district deputies should be doing your 944As and submitting them to Dave and Supreme. And of course, the fraternal survey of every council, Form 1728, which is due January 31st. Typically, you get together a council and figure out your volunteer hours for that, but there is an individual survey out there. It's been out there for a couple of years. I highly recommend that everybody gets that individual survey sent out to their council members so they can get a really good, accurate count of what each member is doing, because we're not getting together so much in our meetings so we need to get that information in different ways. But that's the big form that figures out how much time us Knights are actually volunteering out in the community and our churches and stuff. And of course, like I mentioned, the council audit that's due in February. So if your council is still on the list as not getting one of those 3 major forms done, we need to get those done and get those wrapped up. You know, Christmas is a couple weeks away. Give me a great Christmas present and give me zeros on the reports. That'll make myself happy as well as Dave. So let's get those 100%ed. Safe environment, I'll keep plucking away at those. We should be at 100% compliant. You know, Jim Torito yesterday spoke very much about that. And, you know, it just takes one case of somebody doing something and that council's going to get sued. It's almost a guarantee. And if they don't have the safe environment background, they're up a creek without a paddle. You know, so we don't want to get into that situation. That's going to cover ourselves if we get into that situation. So make sure your councils are getting safe compliant. Currently 76 councils are Supreme compliant. And somebody asked me the other day is, why is there a Supreme compliance and a state compliance? Well, right now the Supreme mandates that you have 4 people in those 4 positions. And with a loophole, you can put 1 person covering all 4 spots.
I'm going to cover that, Jess.
Yep. So as a state, we want to get ahead of that curveball, and Dave's going to talk about that more. That's why you see a state requirement and a Supreme requirement. So other than that, we'll let Dave handle safe environment. If you have questions on reports, let me know.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. I actually have a quick presentation that I'm going to give about the council, the new guidelines for council meeting, which for some reason I didn't get on the agenda, but I'm going to just quickly go through that. So forgive me if I go through it a bit quicker than we would normally, because it's just not on the schedule, on the agenda. So I'm just going to quickly go through that. Come on, baby. Give me the slideshow. Here we go. So as you heard yesterday, the new guidelines, 2 meetings are required, and this is effective immediately, and they expect everyone to have an officers planning meeting, and this is where the details of projects and events are ironed out so that recommendations can then be presented to the council for voting and approval without a lot of discussion. So there's not a lot of time taken in the regular council meeting, the regular member meeting. The council meeting, this is where expected motions are voted upon. Not a forum to discuss topics that were not considered beforehand at the officers planning meeting. If a member brings up a new topic, it's up to the Grand Night whether this is something that can be handled very quickly or whether it should be tabled to the next officers planning meeting. So it's up to the Grand Night, but in the main, I would say if a new motion comes up, a new subject comes up, then tell the member to come to the next officers planning meeting. As I mentioned, this is effective immediately. The other thing that they're saying is that the closing prayer should always be the prayer for canonization or the litany. The litany is something I've personally not seen before, but I'll provide you with a link for that, and that's on the state website too. So I'm going to just quickly run through the new order of council meeting. The Supreme actually had 50,000 members respond to a survey about council meetings, saying which elements of the council meeting they liked and would like to keep and which they would like to go. And they actually went through, in fact, in the state deputies meeting, they showed us a slide with the, there were probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 elements of the council meeting. And they colored all the ones red that people said, we don't need those anymore. I was sad to see that one of them was the opening and closing ode. I've always liked that, but that's gone. And that does not mean that you cannot do it. It means that it's not recommended. So just very quickly, and it's just 3 slides, I'm going to go through the call to order, the opening prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance, approval of the minutes of the last meeting, the chaplain's message, and the Grand Knight's report. So that's the first 6 elements of the minutes, by the way, I will mention, they should not be read at the council meeting. They should be distributed to council members. If there are any financial elements, they recommend that you make these, you add a password to the attachment to your email, so that it's not easily available to any non-members. Then we would have the financial report, which is just simple report by the treasurer of the council's financial status. Membership report, which is applications for new members and transfers. And then other reports, and this is open a little bit. This can be program chairman, committees, 4th degree and insurance agent, if they're there, district deputy, if he's present, that would come under other reports. And again, you don't want too much detail in these reports. You don't want them to take a lot of time. We need to get through things fairly quickly. Unfinished business is motions carried over from the previous meeting, not new business. New business is motions discussed and prepared at the officers meeting. We're not talking about brand new topics. As I mentioned, if somebody wants to raise a brand new topic, it's up then to the Grand Night to either say, well, we'll table that, or if he thinks that it can be discussed quickly, to do it. And then at the end of the meeting, we've got good of the order. There's always a lot of confusion about what the good of the order is. Good of the order is there, really, it's a section where you present awards. It always seems to be confused what people think the good of the order is, but that's where awards should be presented. The lecturer's reflection, if you have one, or you could have a guest presentation. And by the way, they now say that guests, non-members, can be invited to attend the business meeting, the council meeting, and this can include, guests that are going to be speaking or potential members, prospects. But it's really down to a vote by the council as to whether a specific guest should be invited to attend the business meeting. The Grand Night summary, and basically he would have any quick summary of the meeting, and he would then say, does anyone know of any member of this council or brother of the order who is sick or in distress? That used to be the place under the good of the order. They used to say before proceeding to the good of the order. At this point, it's right at the very end of the meeting before the closing prayer. Closing prayer by the chaplain, if he is available, or by the Grand Night, and then adjournment. So it was just 3 slides with 5 or 6 items on each slide. So you can tell the council meeting is going to go a lot quicker. So details are on the state website on this. If you look under at the top right-hand corner of the state website page, you'll see an entry for news. If you click on news, you will actually see a number of recent postings for, sometimes they are postings for, Nights in Action things, sometimes, things that I've just added, or Greg, or one of the other people who edit the state website. But right now you'll see new guidelines for council meetings will appear in the news, and you'll see a bunch of links there to the detailed guidebook and an FAQ, and also a link to register for the webinar on December 17th. This has been mentioned a couple of times, but so put that on your calendar, webinar on December 17th. Have a look on the state website and you'll find a link to register for it. Okay, so that was just a quick, unscheduled presentation. So I'll now get into safe environment. Have we got anything else? No. So safe environment. I'll stop sharing that and I'll share another one. Just give me a moment while I bring my other presentation up. Close that one so I don't get confused. Here we go, coming up, folks. Okay. So why do we have the safe environment requirement? And I'll read this because I think it's an important statement. We have a goal and an obligation to protect any minors participating in programs, events, and activities sponsored by the Knights of Columbus. So this is not just another hoop that Supreme have provided for us to jump through so that we have to go through to achieve Star Council. This is a duty. And it doesn't just protect the youth, it protects us as well. As Jesse pointed out, if the required council members have taken the required training, then this is going to be a factor in their, to their good. If there is any issues or any lawsuits or anything like that, this is a factor in their favor if they have taken the required training. It's a state priority. It's my priority to try and get every council fully compliant with the requirements set by Supreme. And as Jesse mentioned, we have other requirements to be acceptable at the state level, but Supreme has certain requirements, and if you meet those, then at least that's a step in the right direction. So let's have a look. What are the requirements? So here are the people who need to take this training: the Grand Knight, the program director, the family director, and the community director. And these last two, the family director and the community director, need to agree to a background check. So how does this work? So the council submits a 365, which is the program personnel report. Email notifications get sent by Supreme. They have a partner called Presidium that handles these. So they provide the names and email addresses to Presidium. Presidium will send out the email notifications, and they send it to each member who is required to be compliant off this 365. Training must be taken. Oh, and it also will ask for agreement by those last two members that need the background check. They have to agree that they will accept the background check. And this has to happen. The training and or the authorization of the background check has to be received by Supreme within 30 days of sending out the email. So please make sure that your members are looking for this email, because as we've heard, sometimes emails go into strange places. They can, if you have Gmail has this automatic filing process where it will stick them in different places. So you don't always see them in your regular inbox. So please be aware that this is going to come in 30 days if you are one of these members that has to take the training, and make sure you look for it. If you don't take it in 30 days, then unfortunately your name is taken off the list of the 365 by Supreme, and you have to either resubmit the same name or submit a different name if there's been some reason for it not to take. So where do we stand as a state now? Jesse, I think might have taken some up-to-date information. I did this 2 or 3 days ago. So Supreme. Yeah, I heard you say that. Yeah. So when I looked up, it was 74. So some of these are multiples. And what do I mean by multiples? Supreme up to now has accepted the 365 showing the same person in all 4 positions, which makes absolutely no sense at all. And in fact, as of 2 or 3 days ago, they are not accepting that anymore for all 4 positions. They will accept 3 positions, but they will not accept all 4 positions held by the state. And I have a list of what those are. So Supreme shows 74 council compliant. Now, based on our rules, that is that every position has to be held by a different person to follow the state rules. Then only 38 are compliant according to state rules. So what does that mean? So state rules, if you are compliant according to state rules, then you receive a special version of the state PIN. And if you haven't seen this before, then this is what the state PIN, what the special version, down at the bottom left-hand corner, that's what the regular state PIN looks like. This is a special version. And if you can see, I am actually wearing one because I am compliant. The state is compliant. We actually have to have 5 members of the state team compliant. And we are all compliant, and I am one of them. So this is the award. So any council for which all 4 members, 4 separate members, are compliant will receive 4 of these pins to be worn by those 4 members. Any district that has all councils compliant, the district deputy will receive this pin as well. So let's have a look. Compliant councils under our state rules. It's 2 pages, so this is the first page. I'll not read them all out, but you can see a list of the district deputy here, because the district deputy has a major part to play in making sure that the council it gets compliant as they should. So I'll not read them all, and this is the second. Notice here that District 52, District Deputy Patrick Farrelly, and District 53, Bill Swing, all four in Patrick's and all 5 in Bill's district are compliant. So they are awarded the state compliance, youth compliance pin. If I didn't give you it already, Patrick, I will. And if Bill, if you're on, then as soon as we get together next, I will, or I'll put it in the mail to you maybe. Okay, so then what I call close but no cigar, these are the ones that Supreme says are compliant, but I have an Excel process that goes through and tells me just what's going on here. And I'll just move my little window of people here. So purple, you can see we have a couple here, and I have there's another slide, another list. These purple ones are the councils where the Grand Knight took all 4 positions. And if you think that makes sense, then I don't agree with you. I think it makes no sense at all. And one of the reasons is that we usually say that the rules are that in any event involving youth, 2 members should be there that are compliant. So how can that happen if there's only 1 person, right, that takes all 4 positions? So it makes no sense at all. So purple, and they're going to find that Supreme is going to contact them and say, we did say that you were compliant, but you're not anymore. So you've got to take care of it. The red ones, this is where only 2 people are compliant. Either the Grand Knight takes 3 positions and he's got 1 other, or the Grand Knight takes 2 and 1 other person takes 2. I think that is, makes no sense too. You can sneak by with that, but I don't think it makes any sense. Then the yellow ones that I call the low-hanging fruit, these are the ones where the Grand Knight takes 2 positions, but then we've got 2 other members taking the other 2 positions. That's not too bad, especially for small councils where if you don't have many members, then it's not too bad. However, I'm afraid you don't get the state compliance pin in that case. And then the orange, which I think is makes less sense, is where the Grand Knight only takes 1, but he's got another knight taking 2 of those other officer positions. And this is the second half of the list. You can see we've got 3 more of these. The purple ones, where the Grand Knight put his name down for everyone. I truly do feel that is just an attempt to bypass the rules, to be perfectly honest. So I'm sorry to see that, and I hope that changes. The red ones, well, I can understand it, but it needs to be taken care of. The yellow ones are very close, and the orange ones are very close too. So what about the rest? So looking through all the rest of the state, in total, we have 506 total compliant members. So we have about 280 councils. So that would be 500. That would be 540. No, it would be 1,000. Just over 1,000 and 1,100, so on, officers in those 280 councils. So we've got basically about half of our council officers are compliant, which is not bad, but I think we can improve. So 40 councils have 4 compliant members. And you might say, now, wait a minute, didn't you just say 38? Well, the reason for this number of 40 is that we still have 1 circle, 1 squire circle in the state, and they are compliant. And the other council is the state council that is compliant. So that's why that number doesn't quite match my 38 that I gave in the beginning. 62 councils have 3 compliant members, which I'm calling the low-hanging fruit. 39 have 2, and 82 have just 1 compliant member. So those 82 include those councils where the Grand Knight took them all, but it also includes councils where they've only got one person that's signed up for compliance, or maybe 1 person has taken 2 positions. So that's why we only call that one compliant member. Do I have anything else to say? No. Okay, so I said the low hanging fruit. So 62 councils have 3 compliant members, and that is either the yellow or the orange. So district deputies, look for those councils. This presentation will be going on the state website, so you'll be able to look up which of your councils have 3 compliant members. Very easy to get them to full compliance. 62 of them. That would be great. If we could get 62 more councils to be compliant, that would be wonderful. Okay, that's the end of that.
David?
Yes, sir.
If I can make 4 summary comments about safe environment from a legal point of view,
Yes, please.
they are: number 1, if you have that same person in a multiple position, that person has to be at all those events that you're going to hold, all your programs, everything. You're not only burning that person out, but the possibility if he doesn't show up or if he's late or has to leave early and something happens, your liability as a council goes up tremendously. So that's number 1. Number 2, when you're looking at insurance for your council, talk to the insurance agent about a special rider for child abuse incidents. That is now very common, and it's something that it doesn't cost much, and a lot of times it's included. If you get your insurance through Supreme, they already have that in there in their program. So talk to your insurance people about that. Number 3, if an incident happens and the council is sued by the parents of that child, your degree of liability, the amount of money that you guys will be paying, will depend if your council has been trained with the appropriate people. Thus, if all of a sudden they said, the lawsuit goes on and they say, okay, how many of your people had training at that event? And you say nobody did, boy, you guys better dig deep. Your insurance may even require that you have people there that are trained. But if you say we had 5 people there, we know what's going on. It was just one of those things that happened and we were prepared, but it just slipped through the cracks. Your degree of liability goes down tremendously. Finally, number 4 is that if another organization requires you that you're doing an event with, the church with one of their programs, or you're doing an event with the Boy Scouts or 4-H or somebody else, and they require that you have a person that is trained under their safe environment training, then you do have to have that one person go ahead and get their training also. We know that happens with the Boy Scouts. We know that happens with the diocese, with Virtus. If they require your whole council to become trained, well, have them call me because that ain't gonna happen. So, because we've already had that incident happen once, and I had a good talking to a church administrator, and I told them that they were going to be sorely losing a lot of money if they keep that requirement up and they step back. So I'm going to say, but if they require that one person be trained in their program, let's do that. So those are my 4 points. Thank you, worthy state deputy.
Thank you, worthy state advocate. All good
Dave.
points. Yes, sir.
Can DDs check and see their reports for their districts?
Yes,
Oh, thank you, Patrick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
that was a softball.
For those of you that have access to Office or online, which should be all of the DDs, you can go on there and you can see an Excel spreadsheet of your district's compliance. It's only updated once a week, but you can see it. If you need help on there, let us know.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Jesse. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good question. Okay, so now we come to the spot that you've all been waiting for. My closing comments. Okay. So what is our future? What's the next 6 months? So let's look at programs. Let's look at meetings. and let's look at membership. So for programs, Leave No Neighbor Behind is still the one right up there. Leave No Neighbor Behind, especially our brother nights. And there is still great need to help out our parish and our community. You've seen some great programs presented, especially Coats for Kids. You'll see on the state website, there are photos of men making sandwiches for people in need, preparing food baskets, all those kind of things. That is all great programs. Supreme also has some great ideas to continue. We can continue despite the pandemic. They've got great ideas that allows us to use our technology to continue programs virtually, especially those which allow us to evangelize our faith and our great order. Advertise our upcoming programs and the results of our past programs. Advertise in our parish bulletins, our newsletters, local media if you can. There is also on the state website, there are some links that you can get advertising items. You can get also a radio announcement, a short radio announcement about the Knights of Columbus. That's on our state website. You can find those things. Show the results, show photos, videos, wherever we can. And don't be afraid to blow our own horn. I mean, we all know as growing up, that's a thing that we're told not to do. Don't blow your own horn. Don't puff your chest out. Well, do it, because we need more men, we need more members to be able to continue in the future. Be sure to thank all those who contributed or participated. And that includes not just Brother Knights, but non-members as well. Make sure you thank them. Make sure you send them a note to say, we really appreciate you helping out with this program. And if it's a potential for candidacy, for being a knight, then mention it. We'd really like to have you join us. We really need men like you to help us in our program. So meetings can continue. We can continue to meet despite the pandemic. Use technology, as you've seen, use technology to meet virtually. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's webinars and instructions on the Supreme website and on our state website, easy to find, and we have experts willing to help you. If you can't find it, please get in touch with us. We can help you. We can tell you where to look, or if it's something that's not there, we can tell you how to do it or find out how to do it for you. So please use technology. If you're scared of technology, then get help. If you have young members, this is a perfect way to get young members involved. We've heard a couple of times that I recruited two of my relatives. One of them is my son-in-law, and he's the head of the information technology at HCMC. So he's pretty savvy as far as technology. And I've asked him, and he's agreed to help my council with their website. I took a look at my council's website, which they started about 3 years ago, I think, something like that. I helped them out in the beginning, and I'll tell you, some of the stuff that I put on there is still the latest stuff that's in some of the areas. So, it's no good having a website and not using it. You need to get involved, get all your latest stuff on the website. If it looks old, I'm afraid people are going to go there once and they're not going to go again, even when you put new stuff. So make sure that your website is kept up to date, and use one of your new young members to work on the website and also to help you if you need help with the technology. Be sure it's now mandatory to have an officers planning meeting and ensure that this is the place where members can come and suggest new programs and new ways of doing things. This allows for the membership and business meeting to be shorter and more attractive to new members and allows time for a lecture program or for hospitality. As I mentioned, oh, all right. As I mentioned, the state convention, I was going to put something in here about the state convention, but as you've already seen my presentation, May 14th to 16th, Holiday Inn and Suites. We're hoping that this will be held as a fairly normal, but that remains to be decided, and you will hear from us. So membership, our intake goal is 1050. As of the date that I put this slide together, it was 238. So in 42% of the year, we've met 22% of the goal. So let's, looking at, I get reports, of course, of all the jurisdictions where we stand in the Circle of Honor. And I think Patrick mentioned we are about in the middle in Division 2. The divisions are based on the size of the jurisdiction. So our size of jurisdiction, I think we have 13 including us in Division 2, and we are at position 6. Ahead of us is Maryland, and they are about 4% ahead of us, and a percent in Division 2 is approximately 10 members. So 4% ahead of us means they're about 40 members ahead of us. Behind us, we've got, I think immediately behind us, we've got Nebraska, and then a couple behind us is Wisconsin. So my good friend, State Deputy Corey, as he was saying he was going to catch us up, well, he is currently about 40 members behind us. And we're keeping, so far, we're keeping that gap. So I'd like to keep that and more besides. So looking at other jurisdictions, 2 of the jurisdictions are in the 60th percentile, 60%. 7 are in the 40%, which is kind of about where everybody should be. 13 in the 30%, in the 30s rather. 33 in the 20s, which is where we are, and 17 in the 10%, and that includes our neighbors to the east, Wisconsin, and to the south, Iowa. They are both in the teens, and 3 of them are less than 10%. So please don't be despondent that we are at 22%. We're about half where we should be. Please don't be despondent. There's no reason to be despondent. We just need to do a bit more work. So I'm a great one for statistics. Patrick hates this, I'll tell you, and he wishes I wouldn't show it. But I like to look at it statistically. How are we doing? So if we, these are the members, total members on a month-by-month basis at the end of each month. And if we draw a straight line through there, and then do a prediction based on that straight line, then it brings us up to just a little less than 600, which is appreciably less than our goal. But, you know, it is still 600 men that we have provided the ability of joining our great order and getting the chance to become better Catholics, better husbands and fathers, and better men. 600 more men than were members last year, or 600 men that were not members last year. And that's a great thing. I think that's a great thing. However, if we look at it slightly differently and look at what's called a trend, so these same numbers, you can see it, they've still got the straight line on there, but I've also fitted, or Excel fitted, a trend for me. Now, a trend doesn't just look at where we are each month, but how we are progressing, whether we are getting better each month or whether we are getting worse each month. In fact, this trend shows that we are getting better each month. And if I do a prediction based on the trend, you can see that's quite different. That takes us up to nearly 900 members. Not quite our goal, but still pretty close. And I think, dare we say it, that there is a possibility that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's been a heck of a long tunnel. We know that, right? And it's been very dark, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's vaccines close to being distributed, and we may see things start to open up in the spring. So yes, I do think it's possible. And in fact, we might even be underestimating. As the pandemic recedes, we're going to be looking, men are going to be coming, men who are stir crazy, they're going to be coming out of their shells, out from under the bed, as I like to say. And they're going to be looking for avenues for their energy. And I think the nights is going to provide a great avenue for them to spend their energy on doing these great things, doing our great programs that we have in our list, and programs that we don't even have in our list. People come up with programs every day that are great programs, and we can just add to our list. So I think our goal is achievable. So in conclusion, let's say in the programs, leave no neighbor behind with Brother Knights is number one. Constant communication is so important. Support our Brother Knights. Get in touch with all your members. So important to keep them involved, keep them as part of the family, right? And it's important to support our parishes and our communities and let people know what we're doing in support of our parishes and communities. So continue the great work done during the pandemic, the Faith in Action the Faith in Action program, and note the word faith in action. This is faith in action. So we have to remember that a large part of it is going to be needed, is prayer is going to be needed. Attend the novenas, pray the novenas. We need to pray. We need to pray to Our Lady for help in this pandemic. We need to pray to the Blessed Father McGivney for his intercession to help our order. So, emphasis on the faith programs, but don't just invite members, invite the parish. Invite the parish to join us in our prayer, join us in our services, and all the other things that are in the Faith in Action, especially in that faith section. So in conclusion, use every method available to recruit, every method. So advertising, speaking at the church, every method that you can, use that method to recruit. Online membership is the key, but encourage online members to join your council and become a member of your council so that he can help you and you can get him engaged right away. Then, of course, your job is not over. Get them engaged, call them to come to the meetings, and if you follow the new guidelines, the meetings will be interesting and fun. So what's the final conclusion? Well, this is the same slide you saw in the summer. Minnesota will be awarded the Circle of Honor in 2021. Thank you, everybody.